My name is Ken Klippenstein. I'm here with TYTI Investigates. I want to talk to you about a meeting President Trump had with a dictator that didn't get much attention. You'll notice there was, tons of attention in Trump's meeting with Kim Jong-un, and that's not undeserved. Kim Jong-un is a brutal dictator. However, another dictator didn't get anywhere near as much attention, and that is Mohammad bin Salman, the crown prince and de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia. The reason I think it's important to talk about this, I disagree a little bit with a lot of the coverage about Kim Jong-un. Of course, he's a brutal leader, and the government is awful. However, I don't think it's the worst thing that our extremely impetuous and aggressive president is meeting with someone who has thermonuclear weapons. Any steps towards de-escalating so we don't get in a situation like we were recently, where Trump's threatening, fire and fury. I think that's probably on net a good thing, although I'm sure Trump's motives are not pure. In any event, so I'm talking about bin Salman. I'll call him MBS for short from here on out. Mohammed bin Salman is a dictator, someone just asked. This is the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. What's interesting is when Trump met with him on Friday, it garnered almost no attention compared to the amount of attention that he got from meeting with Kim Jong-un. And I think that it might even be worthy of more attention, and I'll explain why in a second. What was interesting is when he met with him, the press was there, and they asked him repeatedly if he brought up Jamal Khashoggi's death. This was a U.S. resident, a journalist with the Washington Post, who was lured into a Saudi consulate in Turkey, and ultimately murdered. And the details are grisly. They, cut him to pieces with a bone saw in order to try to cover up the execution, or assassination, we should really call it, because this poor guy Khashoggi was a dissident who had been critical of Saudi Arabia and kind of explained the kingdom's problems to a Western audience, the United States, Britain, try to understand this country that we provide a great deal of diplomatic and military support to. And so when Trump was asked this multiple times, twice he said he didn't, he just ignored it, and then finally a third time it seemed like he couldn't ignore it anymore. He ended up saying, I'm quoting, I can't comment on, he said that MBS is very angry about it. He's very unhappy about it, referring to the assassination of Khashoggi. And, that's a very disingenuous response, because what Trump's pointing to is the fact that MBS arrested a number of people in connection with the assassination. But according to the CIA and now the UN, we know that MBS personally ordered the execution. So Trump is pretending like MBS is pretending like he didn't know what was going on and offering him cover and deniability. And that's really important when the world sees a country as powerful as the United States saying essentially, oh no, this guy's fine. You got to ask yourself, how many dictators are going to look at that and see, ooh, if I'm in with Trump, maybe he'll back me up if I want to do some grisly assassination as well. So I think that's terrible. And another reason I wish it had gotten more attention is just because North Korea is, of course, a geopolitical enemy. Geopolitical enemy versus geopolitical ally doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. It just means in the U.S. interests. And of course, Saudi Arabia, with its enormous oil deposits, is in the national interest in the sense that we want to influence that oil. However, I don't think anyone would say he's a good guy. No one sensible, certainly. Terrible record internally, arresting and trying to execute people, has executed people simply for protesting and speaking up against the government. Even has supported crucifixion of people that crucifying the bodies after they're executed or beheaded for simply criticizing the government. So, really horrifying regime, and unfortunately overshadowed by, frankly, a lot of hand-wringing about his meeting with North Korea, another bad regime, but who meeting with might actually lead to something good, as opposed to meeting with MBS, who's just going to provide diplomatic cover to him. It's not like we're in any sort of threat of a war with them, so I don't see the necessity of meeting with him. And what's interesting is reporters who attended the meeting also asked, that kind of pressed him about Khashoggi, and he ended up saying, I can't comment on the intelligence, I'm quoting, Trump says, I can't comment on the intelligence community. I guess I'm allowed to declassify it, but the truth is I don't want to talk about intelligence. Just amazing statement to make. It's like he's admitting that he knows that the intelligence community had found MBS guilty of ordering the assassination. and then sort of walks it back, pretending like, oh, this is national security, I can't talk about it. Well, actually, I am allowed to declassify. So it's like he's admitting he knows that he can actually talk about it, but yeah, I don't really feel like it. And it's almost literally what he says. He says, I don't want to talk about intelligence. No reason why, just he doesn't feel like it. And I want to point out that Khashoggi is the tip of the iceberg here, in terms of horrible things that MBS has done, and the Saudi regime, not just him, has done. Now, this is one individual, an American resident, which is a reason I think that we should care about it. But the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen and the blockade of their naval ports has led to just unspeakable suffering on the part of Yemenis generally, and in particular children who are suffering, malnutrition and starvation by the hundreds of thousands. Absolutely horrifying. And we also have the biggest, I believe it, trying to remember what the biggest case of, I can't remember what the disease was. There's it's literally the biggest humanitarian crisis in the entire planet right now, and it's happening because of not just Saudi Arabia, but our support for the Saudis. When you block off their ports the way that they have done, they can't get humanitarian assistance, they can't get medicine, they can't get food in, and that's something I literally think about every day, knowing that our government is providing logistical intelligence support for this, and also critically diplomatic support, telling the world, we're a very powerful country, we're going to let this happen, and if you criticize it, then you're also criticizing us by proxy. In my opinion, it's terrible. So these are really the reasons. Cholera, yes, a reader just pointed out, is cholera. It's the biggest cholera epidemic on the planet right now. And cholera is that's not like getting the cold. This is a kind of disease that you only get when conditions are absolutely horrible. It's a kind of disease you'd see if you're playing the Oregon Trail. It's something that we hadn't seen in these numbers in a long time. And I think that should weigh heavily on the conscience of Americans, since we're providing targeting information to the F-16s. We actually sell them the F-16s, we sell them missiles, and I've detailed this in my reporting. The U.S. support is decisive. Without it, I don't believe the Saudis would be able to carry out this war, certainly not in the way that it looks, but perhaps not at all. And that's something that we could very easily change. It doesn't have to be this bad. I mean, Bernie Sanders is going out and used at the debate. Unfortunately, the only candidate to bring this up. However, he used his platform to say that this is the greatest humanitarian crisis in the world, which it is, and that we can do something about it. We don't actually have to go in like it's often pitched to us. We need to go in and liberate people. No, we just need to stop bombing them. If we just stop selling things to the Saudis, stop supporting them diplomatically, stop telling them it's okay, things would improve quite a lot. And again, that's not even actually doing something in a positive sense. That's just not doing something awful. So I wish that's something that we could do. Once again, this is Ken Klippenstein with TYTI Investigates. Thanks for joining me on here. I'm going to be doing these daily. I really appreciate the questions, comments, and in one case today, helping me remember that it was the cholera epidemic in Yemen. So check for me here daily. It'll be on TYTI Investigates Facebook page. Like the page if you appreciate the content. That helps us out.